So welcome to Disguise R22. Let's take a look at the TouchDesigner integration. TouchDesigner has launched capability to support the Disguise render stream protocol, and that means that we can now add into our render stream workload TouchDesigner patches. Here's a TouchDesigner file that I've pre-built, and with my render stream pool, I can go in and select my channels and map those just as I do with any other engine. And now when I hit start, Disguise will launch TouchDesigner. This is a TouchDesigner Pro feature, so it requires a TouchDesigner Pro license to work. But what you'll see once this kicks in is that the TouchDesigner patch is up and running and it's controlled by Disguise. So I have a stream running into my stage here, and I can see in this case, a little geometric pattern running from TouchDesigner. TouchDesigner supports a whole host of different exposed parameters. So for example, I can add an image texture and send that across to TouchDesigner. And if I do that, that changes all of my hexagons. Here I just used George, but if I used an animation or a pre-comp or something like that, I can influence the touch scene. Let's do that right now. What I'll do is add a spin bitmap layer. I'll select George in my spin bitmap layer like this, and I will rotate him so that he is continuously rotating. And this is just a standard Disguise workflow. I'll ask Disguise to tile that image, and then I will send that as a texture into RenderStream by setting my color texture to the arrow input. Moving that composition below Disguise, you'll now see that my hexagons are continuously changing in height and color based on the spin bitmap layer. So if I slow that down, you can see that my hexagons get slower. I can also scale up and get something quite nice waving going on. So that's just a texture being sent into the TouchDesigner patch. I've also got a couple of other parameters that I can expose and adjust, so I can increase the amount of tubes, and I can change this exposed text here to say hello world. Now how is this done within TouchDesigner? So within TouchDesigner there's a few new nodes that you'll need to get familiar with to make this work. The main ones that you'll be dealing with is the render stream in top, and also a chop for the render stream out over here. Those are the two key ones, and then you set up some data tables and things like that that allow us to bring various different parameters along and use those. And this is totally customizable, so you can work with this however you need to within TouchDesigner. So as an example, I've picked up the incoming image texture from RenderStream, and I've input that all the way down the composite chain here as a render stream input, and that's the rotating George from the texture parameter. And you can see that comes in through my composition and ultimately ends up being the height of my hexagons. Similarly, I have my hello world set up here where I'm just picking up a parameter using a select node off of an info dat, and then rendering that as a 3D text and including that in my world. So it's a very flexible integration. We can do an awful lot with this. It works alongside camera tracking if you want to use it in a camera tracking setup, but equally this would be just as at home in a fixed installation, building projection, whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Welcome to a new way of making content with Disguise in R22. I hope you enjoy it.